Hi, welcome to Florida Capital Team. My name is Anna Marie and I'm sitting down with Jeremy Matlow. Jeremy Matlow, what are you running for?
I'm running for Mayoral Tallahassee.
Awesome. So, thank you for joining us, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Okay with that?
Let's do it.
All right. Most everyone knows who you are as a commissioner, but do you mind telling us a bit about yourself and why you ran for city commission 8 years ago? Did you always want to be an elected official or involved in government, and how has being a commissioner shaped your opinion?
Yeah, great question. So it was a bit of a perfect storm, I think, of a lot of things. The 2016 presidential election, I think, caused a lot of concern. I never really thought I would run for office, but I had grown up in Tallahassee. I started a small business, Cane Street Pies here. That got me going to City Hall, speaking on different issues that were kind of affecting the Cane Street area, the arts community, sign code issues, permitting issues. And it was clear that nobody there really cared. They didn't care about what was happening in our neighborhoods. There were bigger things going on. Then an FBI investigation broke out. We saw the kind of rage on City Hall. Indictments were flying. And everything seemed to be falling apart at every level. But locally, you saw it was only 5 people. And that didn't seem scary like Congress or where it seemed like 5 people you can actually make a difference. It's a very significant voice. And locally, you can actually see your difference when you do policy locally, as opposed to some of the other things. So I took a chance and put my name on the ballot. Didn't have political consultants and those sorts of things really at all. Had a few people I knew who had worked on campaigns. Threw my name in the hat, put together a people power campaign, and won by 332 votes against the old guard establishment, so to speak. So I think we were running on the right message, and it was something they hadn't really seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. And has being a commissioner changed your opinion of local government politics at all? Or has it kind of solidified?
It may have strengthened my opinion. I said that people have this idea that everything's kind of messed up and corrupt and an insider network. And it is that, and it's probably even deeper than that when you get into individual contracts and favors and who's getting paid to do what. It's so deeply entrenched in an old boys network up there, which I think we all kind of know. But when you see it contract by contract, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? So the HUD investigation played out. It's okay, here we go again. So I think in a lot of ways, it's what I expected, but in other ways, it connects you with so many different parts of the community you probably never would sit down and talk with or meet with and see them get engaged in it. It's been really cool.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, because I think there's also even starting the page, there was this idea of everyone just needs some contract, but then when you actually see it laid out, contract after contract, you see certain friends getting benefits or things like that. It's in front of you kind of more.
Yeah, and we hear it. I mean, people will tell us, hey, I was a bidder on this, and then they just threw out the bid, and they rebid it, and then I wasn't included, and things like that. And it just really makes you wonder, why is it everywhere? Why does it seem to be every single department after church has something? Maybe it's not every single one, but definitely enough to raise concern.
Yeah, for our hardworking neighbors to reach out and say something too, but we haven't.
Right, yeah.
So. All right, so whenever we started our page, we were doing it during the firefighter negotiations and the abuse of our first responders that they endured during those negotiations. During that time, you were a fierce advocate for our first responders as well as all city staff at the time. Can we expect more of that if you are elected? And what is your plan for the budget, balancing the budget, prioritizing the pay for our frontline?
Yeah, and absolutely, I'm here for not just the firefighters, but all kind of frontline workers at the city. I think it's important that if you're showing up for this job, if you're all that you're compensated fairly, and you have a good life and raise a family on the salary that we provide. A lot of positions that's not possible. Even some folks in the fire department struggle to do that. So it's really important to me to take up that fight because we are a city with $1 billion budget. There's a lot of talk about we don't have enough money, and it's a bit of a shell game of how money moves around in the city budget. But if the elected body declared that they wanted the best paid fire department in the state, we would go make that happen. We have the ability to do that. So I look forward to working with the firefighters on both their schedules, their scheduling days, making sure we're able to recruit more. And I want to be in the top tier of the fire departments.
We used to be.
We did.
Yeah.
I mean, things have changed, and it's been a weird 8 years, right? I think Mayor Daley has kind of targeted the fire department because of personal grievances that had nothing to do with the job, maybe about individual people. I think that was kind of wrong. I think that led to how we saw contract negotiations play out. Hopefully we put an end to that, just come back together and say, where do we want to go? And, budget-wise, I think it's a big conversation. How do we continue to fund fire services in the future? I think we need to repair the damage with the county, come back to the table, make sure we're still cohesively, one department funded properly, and then look at, I am in favor of getting the fire assessment off of the utility bill, we get a special assessment, still, but on the property tax bill, and making sure we're doing a study to charge what's needed. I think we all want to pay what's fair. The people in Tallahassee want to pay the fire department fairly. Let's determine how much money is actually needed, make sure that there's no waste, fraud, and abuse, and how that money is being spent, and then allocate it appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, we really want to know is kind of how much is needed. That's one of the questions that our team had asked the city a while back, and we never got that response on how much was actually collected.
It is very hard to get budget numbers from the city management. I mean, if you watch a budget hearing at the city of Tallahassee, it's picture books. It's like you can't get spreadsheets. I'm not joking. Like that's what they present. It's like or long shot ideas. And you look back 10, 15 years ago, I mean, budget workshops were documents and they were detailed and every department, where was money was going, where it was being transferred. And the commissioners would debate department by department how much money should be spent. You don't see that anymore. You say, hey, we're doing a great job, pass this, I'll fix it later. And it takes about an hour. And there's 3 of those, in 3 hours, the city commission does the entire budget. It's like, all that needs to take a big step back. The public needs to come back and be involved as part of the budgeting process. So there is an accountability, but it's so hidden. The checkbooks online, I think, easy for people, so you don't really know how much.
It only goes so far. Like you have to kind of know what you're searching for in order to find it.
Exactly. Right.
And even then, you kind of have to know how to search for it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Like in a normal budget, you would be able to look at a department, open it up, see its accounts, how much money is in each account, expand it, see what expenditures are in those accounts, and that's just basic practices. And I think that's intentional to a degree, so you can't really, it's not easy. It's all there, but it's not easy to track where money's going.
So one of my questions that just came to me too is, because you had mentioned a little bit ago about Mayor Daley and how he was kind of having a little bit of retaliation against the firefighters. What is something that you can do if you get elected to kind of make sure that you don't do the same thing, you don't follow in his footsteps? I know that's kind of like off the cuff there, but
I mean, we're just 2 different people. I mean, that's not my leadership style. When I first got elected, I reached out to kind of all of our the fire unit in my first election. But I was happy to sit down with them and work on their issues. Barney Bishop, who's a pretty extreme right-wing Republican, he was calling me a communist and all these crazy things back in 2018. We sat down, we worked together in opposition to the children's services things. The things I believe in are what I'm going to stand on. I don't have interest in personal petty politics that you kind of see.
People
reign supreme today.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't endorse you, they can rest easy.
They'll be okay. I told people, it's like, you might want to endorse my opponent because I'm going to support you anyway. I'm not sure if they will. So.
Right. Either way. All right, so you already mentioned that you're a business owner, and many of our neighbors also own local businesses. They are struggling in Tallahassee. What plans or policies do you have to address this growing issue and keep our beloved neighbors in business?
Yeah, very, very, very good. One of the reasons I ran is the small business, even medium-sized business support is very lacking. There's a lot of effort in OEB to attract industry, which we failed at. Invested in the Campbell Stadium or distilleries and those sorts of things that aren't really the focus of local jobs. If you're a local business, you're a small business, you go to OED, there's really not a whole lot of support. You can point different things, but there's no monetary support, there's no help with the permitting process. To me, that's going to be crucial as getting management to review and reform top to bottom our permitting process, make it easier, find out what the rules are. If there's codes that can be eliminated around life safety or environmental, like how can we actually speed up that process? How can, when you come to City Hall or the Renaissance Center and you want to start a business, you're welcome and you're shown around. This is how we do things, and how can we be helpful? And instead, it's like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Like, that's what it feels like, and that's what people experience. So, I mean, through OD, we can make small loans and grant programs available for startups. We can perform permitting. I've seen so many small on Gate Street before even it was redeveloped. I would see a new business pop up. 60 days later, they would shut down because we couldn't navigate permitting properly, or there was some issue. Because if you don't have a lot of money, you can't hire the top consultants that know everybody at City Hall. It's a challenge, so I think we can reform a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things recently that neighbors have been kind of talking to our team about is OEV and just not really knowing what they're doing and like how to access them. Not even necessarily getting responses back. So that's definitely
And I will say it's an elected official's fault, right? We've had conversations at Blueprint of let's structure programs better at OEV, let's give them the resources that we need, but we've had a game where it's just top players roll in, want a bunch of money, and that's what we talk about. So there's never been a real effort to reform it. So I do think the staff means well over there, but they just don't have the policies in place and the procedures in place to help.
Well, no, it starts with leadership.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what directs the ship and what directs their culture and that tells them where they're going. So if they don't have a direction of where to go, it's kind of hard to direct other people to go.
Well, if your boss walks in one day and said, hey, let's give all our money to the stadium, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, right?
It's like, okay, that's where we're going now.
Right, so a follow-up to that is, what is your favorite local business besides your own? And what is your favorite item, service, or product that they offer?
So I'll do one. I'll do Canopy Ritz Cafe. That's a really good breakfast spot. I get the surfer girl omelet. They used to have a special combo for me. My friend Brett would never tried. So when they first opened the very first location, I had a combo with a blueberry pancake and some sort of special element. I don't even remember what it is now. And they would just make it for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Long-term supporter of that business.
Yeah, that's kind of like the community that we kind of have here in Tallahassee. You go into these local businesses and owners get to know you, and so you walk in and they know your name. It's almost like, cheers you.
Yeah. So what's cool about Tallahassee, we are small enough to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Florida Capital Team. My name is Anna Marie. I'm sitting down with Jeremy Matlow. What are you running for again?
Mayor of Tallahassee.
Mayor of Tallahassee. So thank you for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get right back to it. Our team has followed your political career for several years, and it resonates with many stances that you have taken on various issues. However, some of our neighbors and social media outlets have labeled you a socialist. How would you label yourself, and what policies have you advocated for that are in line with our more conservative neighbors?
So I like to tell people to look at my policies and prescribe whatever label they see fit. I'm probably more of a progressive Democrat, but I think the policies we're fighting for are clear on our website. I think the city can do a lot more for working people. I think we can build 500 municipal housing units in our first term. Child care to Parks and Rec as a city benefit, and the kind of other side of what people consider, I think we can slash taxes. I think we can reduce our tax rate. I think we can slash millions of dollars in wasteful spending. So I think we can improve the material lives of people in our community and reduce expenditures at the same time. Because I do think it's kind of that bloated and that many insider contracts that are being paid too much. And so if that's what people are interested in, then I'm probably the person for that. There's other candidates that may fit them better.
Well, and that's the great thing about elections, right? Is we can kind of choose between who we think is good. So, yeah. So kind of in that same vein, you had mentioned cutting waste. And one of our neighbors actually, they looked at your page, they wanted a little bit more clarification and specifics as to what you will cut. And they specified they don't want any deals that have already been done or previously dated to be mentioned. So something, I guess, new and fresh.
Sure. I don't know if it's new and fresh, but I will start with things that haven't been done that can change. And that's, we have a new city manager coming in. We'll be able to put a new administration in place. We currently spend $1.5 million or so on over city management. I think that's excessive. We're going to probably get it done for about a third. We have way too many assistant city managers. So reducing just the expenditures of the top end of our staff upwards of $1 billion. We do a lot of advertising that I think should be looked at. We advertise in the right-wing Tallahassee reports, and we do all these newspaper ads and all these sponsorships. There's a lot of unnecessary travel. People going to speak at South by Southwest and these food budgets. There's a department called Strategic Innovation that was created in 2016.
And I think he's actually getting paid the same amount as the executive.
As an executive city manager.
Yeah, and same thing with the public relations department. They're all on the same level.
Yes, and the communication is another one that has been added. I mapped those out last year, and that's $5 million, and that's like low-hanging fruit, things that would be cut immediately. But when you really just start looking department by department, asking everybody, hey, can you do a 5% reduction? Can you do a 3% reduction in your budget and see what our directors would cut? I'm used to that type of process as a business owner. We look at our budget and things sneak in. We start expending, things that you don't necessarily need to spend money on. That happens in all budgets, but you have to recoil at the end of the year. Unfortunately, our budget process is whatever we did last year, plus we got more money. Where do we want to spend it? That's kind of what we've been doing. There's a lot of contracts that can be renegotiated, or when they come up for renewal, that I think we can get a lot better rate at by just having a more transparent procurement process as well.
Yeah, and so also one of the things is the missing $1 million, right? And I know there's been a few other instances of maybe money disappearing. Is that something that you're going to continue, I guess, opening up investigation or encouraging investigation? Because I know the mayor can't.
Yeah, so I look at it at what we can recover. We lost nearly $1 million from a phishing attempt from the city manager a couple years ago. There's the missing $1 million. The missing millions that people speak of that they recovered. I think 600,000 of it. There's still over $1 million that was also taken fraudulently. And I think these things kind of compound. And now there's the HUD grants. We have to pay back at least $1 million. Could be as much as $5 million. I'm not sure how much they expended. And that's money coming from our general revenue budget. We're no longer getting the federal money at all. So that's 5, 6, 7 million that we've lost just from not having good management of controls over making sure we're executing grants properly. That's a lot of abuse, if not waste, that we've seen. And who knows what's on the horizon, and who knows what we don't know, right? So all of that, I think, can be tightened up.
Do you think that that's like a policy of maybe, I guess, because with the one scams, it's kind of opening up a door. So is it a policy that needs to be created, or?
I think so. So part of it, I think, it is training. It is working with our Inspector General and Auditor to strengthen our systems. And he's looked at these and has kind of made recommendations of what went wrong, if we should be able to access the system and change the vendor number. What does it take to, if somebody calls in impersonating a vendor, how many checks and balances you do have before you let large sums of money leave the bank. I think all of those things can be done. There's tighter controls that can be put into place. But we have to start by admitting we made mistakes. And it seems this management doesn't like to admit that we made a mistake, so it's hard to correct. I think it's okay to say, okay, we messed up, we lost $1 million. Here's how we're never going to do it again.
Right.
And I think we can get there.
That kind of builds public trust, right? Is just acknowledging that there were mistakes. I think whenever we have elected officials and whenever we have city managers that kind of double and triple down on their mistakes and they don't acknowledge them, it just hurts everybody's trust. I hear that a lot. It's just admit.
Just say you messed up. We all know.
Yeah.
It's like $1 million is missing. Somebody made a mistake. It's
right.
not. And so these things happen everywhere. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. I'm gonna jump. There was a question about disability disparities. I'm sorry, I'm speaking today. And accessibility concerns, and this just comes from. And I've spoken to a few of the neighbors in our community that do have disabilities, and they feel like they just have a lack of access. There's a lot of beautiful parks that they feel like they don't really have good access to. There's a lot of buildings that they don't have good access to. And I know that with the ADA requirements, it was built before a certain time period, they don't have that upgraded. Is there anything that you feel that you could possibly do to help this community have better access to what we have?
Yeah, that's very important. what comes to mind immediately is the airport elevator. So many complaints about it, and it took way too long to get it here. It's coming online soon, but I think anywhere that it's a public park, a city-owned building, and there are access issues, please let us know. I'm not aware of all of them, many of them. That is something we advocate for immediately, and then again through as we do permitting reform, make sure we appropriate ADA requirements on construction of buildings, and then even looking for incentives for older buildings to add those accessibility features. And those are things that we can be doing through grant programs or through OED, for businesses. Because I recognize on that side too, some older businesses, it's harder for them to have the money to make things compliant. But if we can help as a city ease that burden so there's more accessibility for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so we have, as you are acutely aware, there is much division in our city government, and some neighbors are concerned the division will continue or even increase. Neighbors are tired of local government not working for our community, and no progress is being made due to those divisions. How will you guarantee that you will still advocate for our neighbors while getting the work done?
I'd say, nobody is probably as frustrated with the stagnation as I am, because I've been part of it and there for 8 years. It's not fun. Everybody up there, I think, is having any fun. Everything is kind of grounded to a halt. And I think leadership starts at the top. I think it starts in the mayor's seat. We've kind of had a mayor that reveled in pitting commissioners against commissioners and making things difficult, playing games on the dais to have the conversations become what they are. I believe we should sit down as a commission, no matter who gets elected, without city management agendas at a round table, discuss our individual priorities, what we want to accomplish, and then work together to make that the agenda that we're pushing forward. So that we're eliminating all these things that pop up and aren't actually. The hospital wasn't anybody's priority.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the mayor's, I don't know, but nobody ever mentioned that before it came up. The golf course wasn't a priority that anybody campaigned on. All these explosive issues aren't necessarily commissioners' priorities. And I think if we set priorities with our community, commissioners, and make sure their opinions are valued and included in the final work product, a lot of that division will go away. Even if they're not getting everything they want, I think if they see that they're having an important, impactful, meaningful part of the process, there'll be a lot less division.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned one of these hot topics, and right now we have the current which is the Jackson annexation. What is your stance on that?
I'm opposed to annexing the 1,700 acres. It's the Phipps property, and I'll tell you why. We just annexed and brought in 4,000 acres of the urban services in Hawaii. Before we did that, our staff told us we already had enough room to grow for 30 years. Then after we did that, they told us we had now had enough room to grow for 30 years. Now it's 4 years ago. So we have enough. It hasn't developed yet. So we have 25 years of growth. This would strain our resources. We would be running city resources to lay out Canopy Road. There's nowhere to put traffic. They're talking about building thousands of homes. It's not part of our comp plan. It's not part of our long-range strategy. Frankly, it's just a landowner who's dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into local political candidates. I don't think that's how we operate.
I agree. I like the engagement with local. I would like for it to be fair. So absolutely. Not only is there division in the city commission, there is also division in the county and city governments. We kind of spoke on this a little bit earlier with the interlocal agreement, and I know there's several interlocal agreements. Do you plan to mend the relationship with the county, and will you advocate to repair the interlocal agreement?
Yeah, 100%. I have a great relationship with most local commissioners and with my campaign for mayor. We're ready to sit back down.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. We're ready to renegotiate the fire contract, make sure it's fair for everybody, make sure we're putting the money needed to do fire service appropriately. But we're so interlinked, it's not just fire, we serve on the Excel stack blueprint together, all of those road projects we need the city and county to agree on. We do joint planning on the comprehensive plan, how we want to grow. There's some things we do separately, and I think that's good. People who live outside of the city limits want a more rural feel and want county rules versus city rules where it's a little more structured or a little more urban. And I think that's a great dynamic to have the I think this is, again, been just hotheads going across the street, personal grievances, and not really thinking about what's best for the people. So I look forward to repairing that. I know the county wants to. I think we're getting close to a majority of even the city now wanting to, because I bet, it may seem like a good idea to be the tough guy, but then whoever hits the road and fire services are falling apart and you're trying to disinvest stations and all these sorts of things.
I just think it's better for the community, right? It's just better for the people. It's a fire and a EMS, and this is really what works best for our community, especially because we have all these services. So I think that
it'll be great. I mean, imagine. So I live off North Meridian. 2 streets up from us is county, and I'm at if there's a fire, a medical emergency. Right? The city and county are both supposed to have a fire station right next to each other that serve them because they're so close. Like we have a Swiss cheese border of what's city and what's county. So like trying to figure that out. I have an uncle in Vero Beach, and they have this situation where they have the main roadway where the southbound lane is one station, and then the northbound lane is a different department. So when there's a traffic collision, they arrive on scene and decide whose side of the road is their spot. That's what we need to avoid in Tallahassee. That's insane.
I agree, that is insane. So talk about all these interlocal agreements. Do you think that there needs to be like an interlocal agreement word that's like, because I mean, I feel like y'all have so many interlocals.
That's an interesting question. I haven't really considered it. I do think it would be good to review them all from top to bottom and see all the different ways we interact. There's definitely room for changes in a lot of them, including the blueprint agency. Those things have just evolved over time. Things get added on, and I think for transparency's sake, I think making those apparent for people because they don't understand how these things work. We barely understand sometimes how these things work. The rules are all made up, or they were made up one day, and you have to figure out what they are. They're not necessarily just majority votes. So I think revisiting all of those will make sense.
Okay, cool. All right, and then welcome to Florida Capital Team. My name is Anna Marie. I'm sitting down with Jeremy Matlow. What are you ready for?
Mayor Tallahassee.
Mayor Tallahassee. Alrighty, so skipping to the local environment, we kind of talked a little bit about the Jackson. We had a question posed to us by a local environmental group, and they are talking about the 11 sewage spills that have happened since April 11. They wanted to know why you didn't advocate or insist for more studies around the contaminant in our environment, and would you insist on underground utilities providing quarterly updates of raw sewage infiltration projects?
Yeah, 100%. And we do send out the reports every time that there's a spill, and it's important that the community has access to that information. I do believe that there's too much infiltration in our sewage system. I think it needs to be addressed with a long-term plan. I don't think we can continue to wait until there's a couple circle scenario where we're cutting up a giant road. I don't know how we're missing that with the camera crews and inspections, but I think long term we need to be a lot more aggressive and updated that infrastructure, particularly as our city continues to grow, it needs to be able to have the capacity to handle all. We're talking adding Lake Jackson to the sewer system and all these things that would then flow south. So I think there's a lot more we can do there, but I'm happy to do quarterly reports or whatever is needed for the public to know.
Yeah, I mean, transparency is so obviously the current agency can advocate for as much information as possible. Alrighty, so the new city manager search is also being discussed, and you've mentioned this a couple of times with the old city manager. And we know how you feel about time frame for a city manager, but what are the qualities and qualifications that you will be looking for in a city manager?
Sure. I don't want to judge anybody who currently works here at the city of Tallahassee, but I do think we're at a time in our city's kind of history where we need an outside perspective to come. I would like to see somebody who hasn't worked in the city of Tallahassee, who has worked in a mid-sized city our size, particularly somebody who has reformed a city and made improvements where things were kind of lackluster. It would be great to have somebody who has worked in a city that owns a public utility, has a master's degree and a track record of bringing a collegial body together. A city manager's job is to kind of faithfully execute the will of the elected body, and all of that should happen in public view for public votes. That's what we've been lacking here. It's created so much animosity in our community. And my fear is people who have worked in the city have seen it be done that way for so long that they don't know what good may look like. And it's no fault of their own, right? Because when you work in an institution for so long, you just get set in the ways. There's a lot of ways we do things that I don't think are best practice. And I think just having somebody come in who's done it differently, look at all of our departments top and bottom, so why do we do things this way, right? And then make those corrections.
Yeah, fresh ideas, it's one of those things that having more and more eyes on the experience, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, our team has also looked through your campaign page prior to this conversation, and we saw that you identified 3 pillars that unite our city: a strong economy, stable neighborhoods, and a safe environment. You explained how you plan to address issues in our community with these pillars. Can you explain these pillars for us and our neighbors who are watching?
Yeah, so when we talk about division in our community, people will fit anti-growth versus pro-growth, and all these kind of litmus tests for what side you're on. And I think largely they're over-exaggerated. I don't think people in our community are necessarily anti-growth. What they are concerned about is they see huge forests being bulldozed or clear-cut for neighborhoods. The small town charm, the canopy, the things we love about our city seem to be disappearing. So I think when we say making sure our neighborhoods remain strong, making sure we value the things that made us want to live in Tallahassee to begin with, make sure we're not becoming a city like South Florida where just everything's concrete roadways and there's no tree coverage. I think that's vital. And our economy, making sure we're continuing to create jobs, having pathways for small businesses to come up. We have a 25% poverty rate in Tallahassee that hasn't changed over the years, and that's distressing. We're not really growing if we continue to be 25% of our community behind. So investing in our infrastructure in the areas that have traditionally been underserved is needed. And then that leads into safety, which I think is a top priority for everybody. These are all things I think we all agree on. We don't need to fight about hospitals. Let's say, can we agree on these 3 pillars of what makes Tallahassee a stronger city, addressing the poverty rate, addressing gun violence, making sure young people have more things to do, all those sorts of things go hand in hand. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the grandest vision, but it's a vision that we can all work together to be the best city that we all want to be.
Perfect, love it. So we're at a 1 hour. I get short on time, but do you mind addressing the flop cameras and if you would be willing to terminate that contract?
Yes, 100%. I want to eliminate that immediately. They're popping up everywhere, tracking people all over the place. This is a private company that is collecting that data, so it's not even secured to just our local police department. You've seen this data being accessed. 5 officers in Albany, Georgia, just north of us, got arrested for using this. You're seeing it all over the country. So this is taking the Patriot Act level surveillance and giving it to tens of thousands of people all across our country that have access to it. I think that's wrong and frankly insane, and I don't think it's really keeping us any safer. TPD already had a top homicide clearance rate before these cameras went up. We were solving these crimes. This is just making it easier to track people who didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then, is there anything that you would like to discuss with us or with our neighbors tonight before we
What's next? AI data centers, I think we should all be aware of. And I know this is a hot topic around the country because people are concerned with them, but it is a very real concern and threat here. We've heard from people who are interested in bringing them here already. So it's not just, could they come here? They definitely have feelers out. And maybe it's every city in the country, I don't know. But if we don't elect a majority this year that wants to stop them, they very well could be built here. My opponent has said we're in favor of them. So there's that. They do their water, they strain their electric grid. They don't really create any jobs. And long term, they're going to take our jobs away. So I'm not sure why we invite them into our community. They don't really add value. When we know we need the available land to have houses and things that people say.
When we work directly in Cold Spring, that's somewhere that I go all the time to Cold Spring. I just think about how everything we do here is going to burn down.
Oh yeah, our entire aquifer. We're in a very sensitive. We have great water, fantastic water. We should keep it that way. We need to protect aquifer here.
Awesome. Anything else?
No. That's it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and talking to us and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.